And Prem, we'll keep you on and have you interview Tom Lau, the Chief Operating Officer of MedicaSafe, as we go and move from digital transformation in organizations to medical adherence and remote patient monitoring. So over to you, Prem, and welcome, Tom.
Well, thank you, Jerry, and good afternoon, Tom. How are you?
Doing well, thank you so much.
Yeah, so welcome to the program, and terrific that to have you here, and we look forward to a very interesting discussion. So please, would you start it off by giving us a little bit of background, some of your experiences and some highlights and areas of focus, please?
Sure. Just a quick background about me and then more about the company. I started off in a totally separate career in finance, and then about 14 years ago, transitioned to technology, really with data visualization software, obviously data analysis. And from there, came to MedicaSafe about 9 years ago as the Chief Operating Officer. So MedicaSafe got its start from actually funding from NIH, specifically the National Institute on Drug Abuse. We've won 6 grants totaling about $3 million, and that's how we started iterating our technology many years ago. And from there, we raised some investor money, and now in the last couple of years have created what is a drug device combination, specifically focusing on high stakes therapies. There are obviously many high stakes therapies, but the one that we are going through an FDA approval process for is for people who are addicted to opioids. So opioid use disorder is the one product. We hope to submit to the FDA sometime in the beginning of the new year. Let's call it first quarter. So we've been working on this for many years, and what we're creating essentially is a class of drugs that automatically generates data for clinicians and our care team, and that is particularly useful for what we're doing, which is people addicted to pain medication. So that's the background of MedicaSafe.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. So it looks like you're at one of the busy times of your life.
Yeah, the pandemic has been interesting for us. It's been good and bad. So it's been a very exciting, I'll put that mildly, year and a half or so.
So any takeaways for the audience from your experience over the past 18 months? Any thoughts and so forth for the entrepreneurs in the audience?
Well, I mean, I think what we're doing is a little bit different than from most of the panels that have been on here today. What we're doing requires a lot of supply chain. So we are sourcing, we're creating physical products, some of which is on the screen behind me, combining an actual drug. And so as a result of that, a lot of the learnings that obviously we're all doing, figuring out customs, bottlenecks. So supply chain is a humongous part of our product. And so, it's literally nothing that the audience doesn't know, just ordering chips in all kinds of technology way in advance than what you really think it needs to be. And so some of that has been quite fortuitous from our standpoint, considering some of the things that are happening in Asia.
I think a nice segue into my next question, which is, tell us about your technology, please. How does it work? What do you see in terms of patient benefits and outcomes and so forth?
Sure. So we started off with sort of the first principles of what if medication can generate in real time, and that's the most important thing, a dose by dose information for the clinician and her care team. And there have been attempts at this. This is obviously medication adherence is a big problem, and there have been many attempts at it. We're looking at a very narrow case of that, which is again the high stakes part of it. And the problems that we've always seen that has not been addressed, and we hope to address, is that there's always a requirement for someone to load the medication into whatever the technology package is. And so if we can ameliorate that challenge, and that challenge sounds simple, but it creates a lot of complexities. And so what we're going to do, we have issued patents on processes, but what we're doing is packaging the actual drug. Large pharmaceutical company to create the drug. So that drug is packaged inside our technology, which is again on screen behind me, at the factory. So no one touches the drugs. It's all in one single package, and it gets sent to the specialty pharmacy. When the prescription comes in, the pharmacist fills a prescription and sends it to the patient. The patient doesn't have to do anything. So, and that's what we mean when we say it automatically generates data. With some of the other solutions, someone has to do something, whether it's a caregiver, a family member, or the patient themselves. And that always creates it essentially creates an additional compliance problem, right? So it may not be the technology itself, but it may be someone forgetting to set it up. So we took out the setup problem, which sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult. There's a lot of, again, supply chain issues. And the drug we're dealing with is a narcotic. So we have to deal with the DEA, which adds another layer of complexity to it. All of this is leading to what we and everyone, I'm sure, in the audience know as the Hawthorne effect. And so we are intentionally invoking the Hawthorne effect in that patients know that their doctors and the care team is watching them, and so they tend to behave better. And so we've done small studies, pilot studies under IRB using our. It's encouraging. And so again, the cohort on our product was adherent 97% of the time versus a comparator. And we have to go through an FDA process because there's a drug involved, and it's a 505(b)(2) pathway. And so we hope to submit first quarter 2022.
Sounds great. Looks very impressive and very appropriate for the current situation. So
yeah,
thank you and to your team for that great contribution. So when you look at some of the biggest factors, when you look at consumers and patients, what are some of the factors that these two groups of individuals find difficult in adhering to medications and so forth? Any insights on that? I'm sure there are many folks in the chat who will be interested in a couple of bullet points from your side, some highlights.
Again, these high stakes therapies. So I'll comment on that. And it's more about creating a data trail, right? Allows them to escalate care if necessary. And what do I mean by that? Again, on the drug in our product is a drug called buprenorphine naloxone, and if the patient is not taking that drug, so the current situation right now is you have a urine drug test, which really allows a 2 to 3 day window within a 1 month period for the doctor to assess whether or not the patient is adherent. With our product paired with the urine drug testing, it allows the clinician to not remove all the scenarios, but reduce the number of scenarios. And so therefore it allows the care team to essentially risk stratify the patient population, which has, cascading effect. Literally 5% of the patient population is responsible for 95% of the cost to the system. And these are what is called, they chronically relapse, right? And so if we as a society can identify that group, that 5%, 6-7% group, and escalate care a little bit earlier, which means reduce ambulances, reduce operating room, emergency room visits, things like that, then it's a $60,000 per year savings to the payers for that one patient. And so that's essentially what we're doing, is having technology that allows the doctor to see the high-risk patients quickly and then escalate care for that small patient population. And then you could sort of see layering a software scaffolding on top of that allows that small doctor's office or treatment center to scale, right? Because right now, essentially what's happening is you have an admin or a nurse or PA essentially calling patients. And I mean, you can only monitor so many people. Whereas with ours, you can do hundreds and hundreds of patients at a time. What you essentially do is we have a dashboard, and you can just set alerts for those patients who have not dispensed in the last 48 hours. Patient population of 200, maybe the admin calls the 22, 23, 24 that have not dispensed, and it have the step-by-step function to escalate care. So that's essentially what the benefits are, but the complexities of getting there is quite difficult. So yeah.
No, it sounds like a very interesting effort to marry these two different diverse parts. So I think
Yeah.
I can appreciate the complexity. So it is, it is. I'm sure the audience would be very interested in seeing, your efforts in the new year, and after you gain your FDA approval. So I think that part is to be congratulated. So thank you for that. So when you look at this, I know you're in the high risk area in terms of medication, but as you, from your vantage point, as you look into the future, how do you see the future of medication adherence in healthcare, and particularly how, the ability to bring the digital into it, and how these two parts are come together?
That's a very good question. So again, we only have one product that we're trying to get through the FDA for approval. It's specifically targeted for opioid use disorder. That said, useful to the system, and those are all mental health type issues. So think antipsychotic, antidepressants, things like that. Outside of the mental health drugs, there are a couple that we actually got a small grant from NCI, which is the National Cancer Institute. So we feel that we could potentially do a drug device combinations for that sometime in the future. We've been approached from surgeons for organ transplants. So if you think about what our IP is contingent based dispensation with real-time data trails. So there's if A then B kind of thing, and obviously with organ transplant, there's a lot of complexities in that. So those are the use cases. Now so CMS, which is Medicaid Medicare Services, is therapeutic data to the remote patient monitoring menu of reimbursements for doctors, and that is humongous. Obviously, it helps us, but the catalyst for that was obviously COVID, right? And so therapy data. So before it was physiological data. Now they're considering adding therapeutic data, which is essentially medication adherence, and their admin checks our data on our dashboard and gets paid. Actually, in the aggregate, there are 5 CPT codes. It's $180 some odd per month. So it's quite high. But that's to answer your question. That just came out, I believe, this week.
No, that sounds terrific. So I think the insights from all your experiences, particularly as you transition this through the regulatory bodies and so forth, is admirable. So congratulations again, and thank you for coming online and spending some time with us and taking us through your journey. I think after you launch next year, maybe in the second quarter, we'll invite you back to see how those lessons came through. So thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Terrific.
Wonderful.
Over to you, Jerry and Stan.
Yeah, wonderful. Prem, thank you, Tom, for those insights into MedicaSafe and what medical adherence looks like in the future. And thank you, Prem, for filling in those time slots. You can go and have a much earned rest now.